Lysimachus, the young prince of Egypt, had crossed the Arabian desert to help his older brother in defeating the Nabateans. The first sign of hostile life he came across was the trade outpost of Adumato, a settlement kept in high regard by these sand-sniffing traitors. This was probably one of the finest regiments in the entire Egyptian army, equipment-wise that is. And when you are this ahead in terms of technology and advancements, you don't really need much more than that. The Seleucid scorpions we captured allowed us to snipe the enemy during their approach, while our own cavalry flanked around. Once close enough, the hostile forces entered the range of our pillars, followed up by a united charge from our entire front line. The battle was already over by then. However, it just turned even more decisive once our cavalry rammed them to the ground from behind. This was all without our Syrian elephants, by the way, as the young prince Lysimachus forgot to deploy them. Showing no mercy to scheming bastards such as these, Lysimachus looted the town, causing a massive fire that is so large it could be seen all the way back in Alexandria. It did give quite a lot of problems, as this also alarmed the two Nabatean armies within the same region of where it just happened. A major self-caused problem that could have been avoided if just he spent more time scouting the terrain instead of jumping head-on into battle. On the positive side, the dunes and hot sun lowered their movement range, giving us some time to prepare. The fact that he was an unwavering patriot certainly didn't help in the short term, as these foreigners only despised us even more. In the province of Nabatea itself, we turned their former living quarters into mining fields to supply our grand kingdom. With a fountain to establish some form of sanitation, we aren't that cruel. The plan is to construct a slave market here too, to further industrialize this land and get rid of anyone too disobedient. These fools offered us peace, however they forget they brought this on themselves. Plus they are in the way of us acquiring the Dam of Marib, which I so desperately want. As our physician reached Alexandria, he miraculously found a cure to the disease spreading across our land. The plague in Alexandria had disappeared. It was glorious news, meaning only Memphis was left to be freed of this Punic curse. With this internal conflict basically dealt with, all we had to worry about now were the pirates' cells harassing our coastline and the colossal Seleucid army mustering at Epiphaneia. Now that is scary. Furthermore, the headless Prince Lysimachus didn't make things easier. I mean, his intentions were pure enough: defeat one Nabatean army before it could regroup with the other, which he accomplished somewhat successfully. Yet still with the same high casualties as we are starting to expect from him by now. Furthermore, we've discovered something critical in our operations. Realizing the Nabateans were operating out of a hidden base within the scorching desert, Yathrib, Junior, the brilliant commander who actually was in charge of this campaign, decided this was an exceptional opportunity to cut off the Nabateans from their supplies. If only he knew how costly this was. In Gaul, our spies saw the Arverni forces at Tolosa getting betrayed by their own kin in favor of olives and wine from the Massalians. Surely this must have hurt the Arverni enough to accept our offer of help, if they can trust anyone ever again. It does require we find them first though. We'll have to go deeper. Nevertheless, if this actually works out, this extra knowledge of these foreign lands will come to good use for our pharaoh, who by now already had passed through Karalis to meet up with the fleet that will take him the rest of the way. Of course, as mentioned before, these fleets were supposed to patrol our own coastline. And due to this lack thereof, Cyprus, one of our naval bases, fell to the thieves, becoming a pirate safe haven. A devastating sacrifice for our kingdom, all just to establish a colony in Gaul. So be it, I guess. We can't retaliate. Not yet at least. But what we can do is try to contain this corruption from spreading. Aristophanes will march to Phoenicia to secure it from the last voyagers. Back in Gaul during the cold winter, we discovered the accuracy of the tales we were told about this untamed land. Gold. This is why the Greeks are here. They were extracting the resources to the dislike of most of the natives. It must be challenging to escort all that gold back to the Mediterranean. But oh well, I guess that greed is so overwhelming it doesn't really matter. Down in Arabia, the trade lords of the eastern coast offered us to let our wealth flow unhinged across our borders. Their offer was rather insignificant, if not for the enormous payment they made in advance, gripping my attention. If only they offered us some way to navigate the desert without suffering from supply shortages. Junior hoped taking Yathrib for himself would help in this matter. To be fair, it actually did work, but not for long. With most of the snow gone, it allowed our spy to reach Bibracte, a major fort appearing to possibly be impenetrable. The Arverni were already mustering forces hoping to hold the line here. Of course, we took advantage of this. At first, they were quite reluctant. However, after giving them almost 6,000 gold, we finally settled on a non-aggression pact. Because of this, our spy received the title Master of Whispers. A great honor that is rightfully deserved. Unexpectedly, the plundering Cilician pirates offered us a peace deal. All they desired was their own lawless land. A world of chaos. If we bow down to such an inferior opponent, what will people think of us? Like the desert lands were already rebelling against us. A significant problem really, mostly due to Lysimachus foolishly got lost and thus accidentally marched the wrong way, leaving Atumatu unprotected. But if we are to take down these pirate cove, we will need a few ships. Our mayor of Alexandria took this mantle on himself, conscripting a new fleet so Aristophanes can be transported over to the island. Sadly, our Arabian conquest received a major setback with Junior succumbing to the environments, needing him to return home to avoid death. The Nabateans might not know how to wield a sword or thrust a spear, but their greatest weapon is undoubtedly their surroundings. The army itself was practically ruined too, apart from some of the Ethiopian regiments, but even they suffer in this heat. We have to return home. But someone who didn't want to go home was the pharaoh who finally had made landfall in Gaul. He established a small outpost here at the mouth of an important river. The land was muddy and foggy. I wonder how the Arverni accept such land so willingly. It seems our alliance with them had encouraged an attack on the nearby gold mines. At first I was surprised they were even able to take it, but apparently the Massalian forces were only a short trip away. A fascinating situation actually. But that doesn't actually help with the slave uprising we experienced at Corsica or the rebels in Arabia that snatched away the town once again. Seeing it was about to happen too at Yathrib, our army had to return back there despite the massive attrition they were suffering. Further north of that, Lysimachus blocked the rebels from progressing any further. However, as the Nabatean forces were too close to the town, it was dangerous to attack. But that wasn't the case in Gaul, where this snowy fairy tale-like landscape didn't stop us from assuring more influence over the Nabo region. The dice is cast. For their valiant efforts in supporting our expedition, the Achilles fleet was given the Pride of Ptolemy reward, which was truly deserved. Nabo itself was basically self-sustaining already. It was a farming settlement with plenty of opportunities for fishing, a few military buildings that needed to be converted, and all they really missed was a temple which we will construct right away. After our attack, the Massalians instantly offered us peace. Cowards. They were even open to becoming a client state of ours. However, we've already given our word to the Arvernians. The fate of the Massalians is already sealed. However, closer to home we have to deal with the Nabateans, who teamed up with the locals to take out Lysimachus and his forces. Okay, so this was probably one of the closest battles in the entire history of the Egyptian kingdom, mostly due to our own forces having suffered so much attrition already. The first army was dealt with easily enough. However, the lack of discipline in the army caused our forces to not be in position for the rebellion units that came as a second wave. This caused some of our men to rout off the field, shamefully. No matter, as we still won the battle. South of this bloody struggle, our devastated legion kept taking attrition from this region. The only way to get rid of it was by leaving the province altogether. Yet that is only possible once the last Nabatean units in the land are gone. So the army went out to take care of business without too much trouble. We did lose most of our Ethiopian units and probably will lose way more before we get out of the desert completely. As we took back the trade outpost, we came to realize the rebels had utterly demolished the entire town. Sad indeed, but the war is over. However, with this many casualties we've suffered and still do, you can't help but wonder if this was worth it. At least in Gaul, the cold snow slowly vanished away, making it possible for Ptolemy to lay siege to the largest trade port along the coastline of Transalpine Gaul, Massalia itself. It truly was the best opportunity to strike, as the majority of the Greek armies were further inland. How stupid of a colonial power, relying on their ships to abandon the sea. Our spy within the Seleucid territory had discovered something terrible. Supposedly the Atropatene Khan, our former ally, had submitted to the iron-wheeled bandits, becoming a satrapy. These are sad and devastating news for us. Still, I feel a bit proud of their accomplishments. If only the Seleucids didn't start this war in the first place. What mighty allies we could have been. The mayor from Alexandria was done constructing the ships supposed to escort Aristophanes to Cyprus. Without delay, they immediately set sail and made a costly amphibious assault on the island, defeating the pirate outlaws. Another obstacle passed. We also had an opportunity to avoid this one with the Massalians once again. However, outraged by our loyalty to the Arverni, they sallied forth to meet the Pharaoh of Egypt on the field. After discovering the Massalians formed up in a single hoplite line, we deployed as follows. Our Galatian mercenaries were positioned on the right, acting as a flank for our elite phalanxes in the middle, and the Egyptian swords and archers that we had in behind. Our cavalry would rush to the left, passing our Punic mercenaries, recruited before leaving Africa. It was here the battle began against the single Greek cavalry units, which we demolished through our javelins. This just made it easy to deal with their hoplites, who all decided to take our pikes head on. It is about time they learn about the effectiveness of pikes.